So just a real a note about mindfulness. I practiced it a lot. The first note on my sheet of paper is hit record. And here I am like 15 minutes in and I didn't hit record, but I did remember eventually. So we are recording this. You might miss up to this particular point. So I'll just run through what I did in one fell swoop. So that it becomes now, each individual move is a word. We're going to make a sentence here. This shoulder girdle and this long neck. This free shoulder girdle, this long neck. One more admit. Hi, Jenny Z. Again, I'm leaning back with my weight. My hands are soft, and it's just my contact with her. It's allowing me to provide traction. I'm not using my arms for force. It's a very different message. I like to think about this touch as this model as a dialogue, having a conversation with the nervous system, a nonviolent communication dialogue. So if I were to yell at you, how long would you listen to me, right? As opposed to if I threw off a really interesting idea to you and gave you a chance to chew on that or go, that sounds pretty good. This is what we're up to. We're providing a safe, respective listening context for the body to receive input and say, I do prefer that. And it will make the changes. And you can start to feel it come together in the integration of movement that you're going to be able to see with your eyes. Yeah? Cool. So we have cat's paws, weighing the neck and the head. I can weigh this from my feet. So I'm not just statically here. Very different thing. If I hang out here and give her this feeling. Yeah, this is so easy. And look at how much she's moving. I'm just using my fingers at this point. And I have her entire body. Okay, and as I slosh the whole back of the body, subscapularis, all the rhomboids or the shoulder girdle gets freed up because the scapula is pinned to the table and everything's moving around that. And I don't have to be in there digging to get that effect. Yeah. Cool. So let's move on to swan neck. I'm just going to turn her head to the side and it's just going to roll out. And the suggestion here is this long neck. I think everybody really enjoys this at the beginning of the session. Some soft hands to just highlight this length. And then I want to create space here, but I don't want to do it forcefully, right? I want to take the shoulder away and the head's going to move a little bit, right? And I just want to interfere with that movement a little bit to create a bit of a bounce. I don't want to take the head too far this way because if I do that, I might be stretching too much. So as I lean my weight into the shoulder, I want to follow the head. So my hands are almost doing something like this. But I take a little bit of that slack out so I can play with it. And I can go long this way. I can go down into the table a little bit and just feel what might be juicy for her. And shifting from here. Once I get the slack out, my body moves and I can get a nice quality of movement in there. That feeling. Suggest a little more length. That feeling. Yeah. I'm going to do, nope, we're good. I'll come underneath. I might sculpt out the back of the neck and then just allow the head to roll to the other side. And the same idea here. Just suggesting length from the shoulder up the neck and then leaning into the shoulder, taking out the slack, and then shifting the weight in my feet. And it's effortless. And the beauty of this is that I want to take care of myself in this process. And as long as I keep in motion and moving and mindful of what I'm feeling, then I have the best chance of transmitting to her a really good quality feeling. I'll bring her back to center.
Oh, we didn't.
A little more length.
You can get it anytime.
Leaning back. Yeah. Voila. As I go through the demonstration, neck, low back, and probably the hips, I'm going to do both sides, but I might just do one foot just to get us through the body through the course of this. We have about another hour or so for table work, and then I can be here for until 2 o'clock to answer any questions and dial us in for the next session. So, all right. So let's look at this idea of weighing the head and rocking the head. This tends to be the, well, first of all, it feels really fabulous. It's one of my favorite parts of the session when somebody can play with the weight of my head and mobilize it in such a way that all I feel is freedom and space. And for everybody looking to get a grip on reality these days, gravity's winning and kind of pulling our head into our body, lots of compression in the cervical spine and congestion here from the shoulder girdle, all just kind of drawing in, right? This kind of a feeling. And with Traeger, we're all about, woohoo, I want space, I want freedom here and length here. And the rocking is a great way to set up this kind of a feeling or getting that feeling into their nervous system. So kind of a classic hand position, it'll differ depending on the size of the head, okay, is just kind of having the ear in between the thumb and the index finger, kind of framing that off. And then I have 2 fingers on the fleshy part here, occipital triangle. And then I have 2 fingers on the occiput, okay? And then I'm gonna roll the back of my hand onto the table. And then from here, I'm just gonna do something like this. I'm gonna draw my fingers up and then let them drop back down. And in that way, I'm just taking the head up and then letting the weight of the head go back down so that she's feeling this freedom to let go, right? Kind of an invitation to let go. So this is me just moving my lower hand. Now you'll find that some people or clients have a varying capacity to actually let go of the neck and let someone else move it. And me on certain days, if I go see Stephanie, depending on what I've been up to, it takes a while for her to get my head to just surrender. I'm transferring to the other side. And what I like to do is interlace my fingers, right? So I'm here. As I transfer, I just slip on in, interlace, and go onto the back of this hand and play with those and play with bringing the fingers up. Sorry about that articulation. That wasn't real smooth. So I might just explore this. I want to keep the other hand on the other side of the head so she knows that it's not going to roll off and nothing bad's going to happen to the neck. Again, safety is paramount in this work. And I'm leaning out a little bit so that my position, my body mechanics feel appropriate to me. My center line's kind of right over her. Okay. And as I just bore her nervous system with this simple movement, each time I go back and revisit a direction, it feels a little softer, a little less in the way, a little less mind in the tissues. I might come back in here for a little chorus at the neck. Yeah, this is great. And one thing I want to note, this idea that I might have her shoulder under my hand, or her head or neck in my hand, or I might have a leg, but what I actually have is a handle to her unconscious mind. And all the science today is pointing to the mind. Mind precedes everything. It was the Buddhist idea thousands of years ago, and likely thousands of years prior to that. This idea that mind precedes everything. This is one of Dr. Traeger's, he had many insights, but this one's a lot of fun. That wherever you're at on the body, you've got the mind in your hand. And if you can get the message across to the tissue there, it's systemic. It goes everywhere. Because I'm not just working on the neck area. In part I'm working locally, but systemically, when she takes a breath or relaxes, everything gets a piece of that. Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of play around with this idea of just this simple nodding. I think I got her hair in that one. All right, so some simple nodding. And what I can do with this hand is it can be here gently, but I can also be curious about what the tissue feels like here at the occiput, the occipital triangle. You know, and not so much having the hand travel per se, but just having some support there can really feel lovely. I know, and I'll take a pause here from speaking and doing. Yes, that just sinks right into the table. Yeah, and now with the jiggling of the shoulders, a lot more movement watching the feet down there. I don't know if you can see that in the other video. I might need to, I had the further video set up to view the bear, right? So I have to redo my camera angles. So I'm really happy with these shifts, and I can assure you, you can do this on 100% of your clients. Okay, some of the other movements that come in at the different layers, they might not, there's certainly, for some people, it's not the starting point. Just weighing the head, just being there. Wow, somebody's got their hands on my neck. This, if you can get really effective at conveying, wow, what is soft here? What is easy here? What is fluid here? That is enough. The movement doesn't need to be big. I can lift and just shift from my hips and send waves through her body, awakening the fluid quality of her tissue. It doesn't necessarily need to be about the size of the movement, but you want the quality and the intention to be spot on, right? And again, with this idea of, wow, what could be longer or fluid, softer, more integrated? And that would be enough. Cool. Does anybody have a question before I move on to the leg? Tanya, did you have a hand up? Okay. Everybody good? All right. So I'm going to move on to the first position. I'm going to move the camera a little bit. Could I have you slide down towards me just about a scooch? That's going to be good. Thanks. So another fundamental principle of this work is our quality of I'll call it superficial touch, sculpting, but it runs so deep because the skin is the surface of the brain, right? The skin and the central nervous system develop out of the same embryonic layer. So This is where you get the mind piece. Okay, so when we sculpt with a soft, full, dry, warm, loving hand, it really lights up the nervous system, but in a beautiful way, in a really comforting, soothing way, right? It's a very familiar quality of touch that speaks to our nervous system. So I want to come in, and I'm sure in your training, as they mentioned, that the leg starts about here, right? The mid-abdomen. This is where the psoas is the main locomotor muscle. Okay, it's running down along the low back, then over into the pelvis, becoming the iliacus, and then onto the leg. So I want to sculpt high with just this really nice idea of this leg, right? That's it. This kind of a feeling. Okay. Haha, you've been using your legs a lot lately. Okay. So now what I want to do here is I want to weigh the leg. So I'm just coming in underneath the ankle and almost placing the ankle bone. If you think about this as like a doorknob, right? A long doorknob. I'm just going to shift my weight back and forth, and the leg's going to go along for the ride. All right. If I lean back and water ski, you might be able to see her movement. And that's me taking out the slack with my weight. I'm not getting tight and grippy with my hand, and I'm not using my bicep. I'm letting the weight of her leg in my hand and a full area of contact of my hand to allow for some connection. I'm grabbing though, I am clasping with the third and fourth fingers to get a little bit of traction there, a little hold. But in general, I'm leaning back and I'm able to get some free movement through her whole body, okay? So shifting weight gives me a read on what's happening in the hip rotators, okay? I'm getting a nice little bouncy, buoyant quality in my own legs and my ankles, and I'm going to be working on her legs, so I want to feel what's going on in mine. I lean back, I get some traction. Right hand comes across the top. I lean back a little further, and then from my knees, I bounce the thigh. Yeah? Let me just turn this a little bit. Okay. That's cool. I just want to be able to sit. All right. So from here, we're going to come into the first seated position, okay? Now, important things to note is hyperextension in the knee, okay? That if I were to lift the foot, but the knee stays on the ground, I want to check in and say, hey, is that okay for you, okay? Because you might have some hyperextension. Now, for some people, there's a little bit of a lift here, but you don't want it to be coming off the table while the knee is on the table, okay? If that were the case, you want to definitely make sure it's supported. So I'm going to slide into my first seated position, okay? All right, here I can get this out of the way. There we go, good. All right, so first order of business, I want to keep my posture nice and erect, okay? So that I can feel stacked on my bones and nice and neutral. And then I'm going to be moving from my core. So I'm on the table and I just start my own weight. And you can see her leg going for a ride already. And whether your client's leg moves this much or not, oop, hang on one second, folks. I just gotta let me into the meeting. Hi, Cynthia. Okay, so I'm supporting the leg. My own movement has this leg moving. Soft hand comes down onto the shin. And now I'm really connected to her, working the hip joint and starting to get a wave in the foot, okay? First order of business, I'm just gonna bring my palm underneath the ball of the foot and get some ankle flexion. Okay, And then that starts to articulate the ankle joint. Now, her mind is where my hands are, because that's just what winds up happening. But if you can see the femur rolling around up here, we're working the hip rotators as well. So I give a little bit of traction. This hand slides in, adds a little bit of pressure here at the ball of the foot, or at the ankle joint. And I lean back, and away we go. I can even draw up on the toes, you know, avocado sandwich, drawing up a little bit on the toes. And that gives a little bit of length in the tarsal bones. Again, all while I'm moving from my waist. Okay, my rhythm. But just this little pause, it allows me to find where she's at. The next order of business is the top hand's gonna slide down and kind of land at the ball of the foot. So here in this position, this hand slides up and I lean out, taking out the slack of the leg, and it comes off of my leg a little bit, and I can do the little bell clanger, sending the hip out a little bit. And I watch for the reverberation in her system. I can do a couple of them. So this is her rhythm in the context of my movement. So I'm not here doing this, and I'm also not going so slow that nothing's happening. I find the rhythm where I see I'm connected with her, and I'm leaning out, create some traction. And then I come out of that. Right? Everybody good there? Okay. Nice. So then the next piece will be, let's look at what we call the coffee grinder, if you will, working the metatarsals. I'm bringing the thenar muscle, the base of the thumb, underneath the ball of the foot. Okay. And then I'm going to take the top hand and just gently come across the toes and just work those two together. And just out of curiosity, how does this foot move? Right? I think it was Roger Toll said that, hey, if and this is where the curiosity piece comes in, leaves it pretty open-ended without any kind of an expectation. But if you were like an alien, came down and somebody put a foot in your lap, how would you explore it to find out what it's about? And with that same curiosity, you can start to move the bones around. And if you keep your rhythm in your waist, you'll find that this little chorus or this little undulation continues. And then what happens is that all the articulation you do at the toes translates into sending her shoulder girdle left, right, back and forth, and keeps freeing that up. After a little bit here, I can slide back into some traction and then pause. Cool. It's a great way to you kind of explore what's possible. Hand holds. Again, you want to use as much of a full hand, full palm, all the fingers rather than fingertips and grippy, keeping it soft. I think the avocado sandwich is a really great reference point, right? Or just a visualization. I think everybody's, eaten an avocado sandwich and had the avocado squeeze out. There's like some grace that's required, right? But you still need to be invested in keeping your avocados together. And that's what we're up to here. Okay. Good. One more thing about posture and just in general, but it just popped into my head here, is that when I first started to work, I'd start to get really focused and my head would get closer to my work. And it was Bill Scholl came up to me and kind of touched me in the back, and he said, Michael, he said, you don't have to smell your work, right? Like he just was really encouraging me to stay posturally aligned. And it is so much easier to work this way than it is to work this way, right? Beautiful. So I'm going to support the leg, slide on out, pause for myself. And I think Dean said this last week in his lecture. Dr. Traeger talks about, you know, you can't give something that you don't have, right? So I can't give a stack of papers to you if I don't have a stack of papers. And I can't give soft, free, light feeling integrated legs or shoulders or whatever if I'm not experiencing that. Okay, so self-care is very important. Okay, don't underestimate that. All right, we're gonna work up on the legs. So I'm just gonna move this a little bit. See if I have, okay, cool. I think that's everything. All right, here we go. So I'm just gonna come back in and sculpt. I'm gonna come under and just weigh the thigh. And as I weigh and bounce the thigh, I'm actually just slipping back in my feet. So I'm here and I'm just leaning back as I bounce. And that allows me to get out of the way and give her a free feeling there. Then we have the souffle, right? So I'm wide hands on either side of the thigh. And I'm jiggling, maybe even bouncing my way out of that. Okay. There's also the adductor grab here where you're just in and you're just shimmying the tissue, right? And it's all about lighting up the system so it recalls and remembers its fluid quality. Okay, a muscle at rest is a water balloon, and if you haven't played with water balloons, a great thing to start to you know, just fill one or two up, different sizes. It's great for learning how to feel the weight move through the palm of the hand for like head practice, neck practice, and also for practicing our shimmering quality, which is also one of the other principles, fundamentals of the work. Okay, so I'm going to come around here to do some knee circles, or not knee circles, but just framing the knee. Okay. One of the things you want to do is have your hands in front of you so that they're not out by the side. You don't want your hands here or here. You want to just be in front of you so that you're working more this way. So I'm framing the knee. I have one hand on the tibia, and then this package of quadriceps on framing out the knee, and I'm just shifting my weight. I need a third camera angle. As I come closer to the foot, I can pick up the amplitude a little bit to get the foot moving a little more freely here. I think my arm's in the way there, but I think everybody has this piece, yeah? You see, I'll back out of the way to see if you can see what I'm doing there with the foot. That kind of an idea. Shifting my weight, letting my hands follow my midline. So I kind of line my hands up around my belly button, and then they move along with it. And this just allows me to establish a rhythm of shifting weight front to back and side to side. And then I'm going to pause and let her have that. I had on May 13th, it'll be 33 years since I had my first Traeger session. Okay. And what Stephanie did with my legs and what she taught me, the shifting of the weight front to back, side to side, got me out of chronic low back pain, got me out of ankle pain and knee pain. I can't emphasize enough how valuable just that mentastic is, right? So just practicing yourself, you know, if you're exploring the weight of a shoulder, okay? But just learning to move from your waist and getting that buoyant quality will do so much for you over time, all right? And it's going to translate into some really fabulous work. As I'm in here, I'm also using these slurping hands, right? Where we've learned how to slurp, you know, use, what do I want to say? Here we go. This knuckle, as opposed to this kind of a grip, all right? So I'm not really efforting, I'm just gathering up tissue, okay? Almost like a sock puppet hand. And as I work on the leg, I can gather up and feel the quality of the muscle tissue around the tibia. Come up onto the to the quadriceps, I can slurp that up a little bit. It's just a nice way to be present with the leg. I come down to the end of the table. I weigh the leg. This is just a lot freer. I'm going to lean on back. I think we call this like water skiing. Yeah, it seems like 3 inches longer here. And if I let go of her foot, I would fall away. You'd hear me bump into the screen. I'd knock a bunch of stuff over. I'm not going to do that on camera. And I'm going to come back in and just fluff out the leg. Okay, that's plenty to say here. We've addressed hip rotators. When we're doing that, we're still also giving some length to the psoas as well. Okay, we've mobilized the knee. All right, so in particular at the joint, we got this nice feeling here, lifting up some, you know, as the muscles converge around the knee, just giving that a really easy feeling. And then certainly with all the standing muscles, the gastrocnemius and soleus, anterior tibialis, all of that stuff, nice free fluffy ride. Okay, I'm just going to balance out this leg a little bit. We'll come up and do belly and chest. Okay, cool. Slide out the pillow. All right, so coming in here, I'm just going to say hello leg. Weigh that out. Slide on down. Think of this as a long doorknob. Oh, I don't think I did the waggle waggle on this side, but here we go. Okay, long doorknob. I lean back. I get some traction. You can see that I have her, but I'm not gripping. She's just, the weight of her in my hand and me resisting gravity connects her to me. And then I just put a little grasp onto the ankle bone, which she's not going to feel. It's not going to be, I'm not digging into muscle tissue. And there it is. If I lean forward a little bit, I can turn the ankle. And I'm really getting a nice read on what's happening at the hip joint. Top hand comes down. I lean back, I water ski. Bounce a little bit, okay? I'm just gonna do a little bit for her foot. And, oh, jeepers. I'm moving along too quickly. I probably have done this in some of my other demos, but I didn't do the second seated position. So my apologies. Let me get over to here. All right. Almost forgot. So I'm going to sit on the table here.
It's not good backlit.
I'll wait for you, Tanya. I see you moving your camera too. Okay, so what I want to do, again, supporting the knee, I'm just going to come in and toothpaste tube. Oop, I got another participant. Thanks for your patience there. Hi, Sabine. So the first one is toothpaste tube, where I'm just really squeezing it. This would be what happens when we stand on the foot and it gets really wide, right? So I'm just giving her that sensation so she can feel that width and breadth of the foot, but without standing, right? So it's a passive experience. I can also maybe even start that washing socks idea really deep in the foot.
Okay.
And then build it out to
on my table
the toes.
and do what he is showing us.
It's kind of an idea.
All right, go ahead. It's okay.
Okay, just creating some space in the foot. Most people, well, probably people now have healthier feet than they've had in a while since they haven't been in dress shoes heading off to the office per se, or walking around in cityscapes.
Thank you for your being.
Right, a lot more people are out in
light.
nature. So
Highlight.
can flex the ankle a little bit, bounce the ball of the foot,
Yes.
and I have her
So
whole
maybe
body
tomorrow.
in this.
I'll text anyway, but Wednesday, probably not.
Letting the foot know
Thursday.
that it is this kind of like mermaid tail quality.
Talk.
Also
Anyway,
feels really
enjoy
good.
your class.
Hi, could everybody mute their microphones because it's hard to hear Oh.
Hang on a second. I hear some people chatting.
My microphone muted.
Did anybody have a question?
There were just some unmuted microphones, and I was just asking if people could mute them so we could hear you better.
Oh, okay. Are you still able to hear me now? Okay, I got some thumbs up from Anne Marie. I'm gonna let her lead the charge here. So the last order of business here would be the riding off into the sunset kind of an idea. Okay, toothpaste tube, washing socks. Just exploring this foot, how does it move? And then with this kind of avocado hands, I'm just gonna draw in. I'm going to lean forward and lift the foot to about my chest. The knee comes off of my hip, and then I just gently bounce. So I'm not shaking her foot like this. I take out the slack, and then I move from my solar plexus, and I'm bouncing my knee. So you're getting separation here at the metatarsal tarsals, and just this free feeling of the foot lengthening and opening. Okay? Beautiful. So that's the second seated position. Oop. There you go. All righty. I'm just going to come into the second seated position on this side, and then we're going to do belly and chest. All right. Same idea here. I'm just going to come in and say hello to the foot. Separate out the tarsal bones. This idea of really creating some space and some fluidity in between the toe bones. For many people, this is really frozen. So I invite you to work on a number of different clients so that you can just see how open a body can move. And I pause it between those things. Coming in. Can you see the heel moving? It's that kind of a feeling. I'm tossing the weight of the heel forward. Cool. I think there's also an Achilles stretch in level 1, so I'll add that as I remember here. I'm going to draw the foot back. Right hand comes into the heel, and I'm just going to draw my shoulder back. So I'm not twisting just at the wrist. My whole upper body's leaning into that. Okay, whole upper body leaning in. And this lower hand's really there supporting, so I'm not torquing the lower leg bones, just giving a little bit of a stretch there. Then I might come in and remind length, and then let it go. Awesome. How are we doing, folks? So we got about a half hour of table work. So I'm going to go through the shoulder here, and then at least supine, and then put a bow on it, because these folks, these lovely people have to go. But we can address some back stuff next week and moving forward. Yeah, here we go. See if that looks good. There we go. Okay. Let me see what I got. So as with the leg, I want to come in and I want to say hello. So I'm going to come in with sculpting. saying hello to the shoulder, coming down the arm, and then coming into a weighing quality, and a weighing quality with traction. You can see that kind of a bounce there. And this bounce I'm getting by just squeezing my hand. Yeah, so I'm not pulling with my arm. That's pulling with my arms. This is me leaning back and then just squeezing with my hands. It's a really different feeling. So I weigh the arm, and you might find that people tend to want to help you here. So sometimes just weighing gives them an opportunity to go, oh, I don't need to be doing that. And if you find that somebody is holding, if you can bring their awareness to it, hey, do you feel yourself holding? Can you give me your weight? Can you feel your elbow kind of drop into my hand? When they're able to do that, you can inform them that they've just experienced that there's two minds operating. Okay, oftentimes people can't get their elbow or their arm to drop right away because they don't have a conscious connection to, like a conscious override of the unconscious pattern. And then you can explain to them that this is happening at micro contractions all the time as we get triggered in our day. Okay, so it makes them hip to this idea that, wow, there's, you know, something intense happens. I need to be really attentive to what just happened in my body at an unconscious level. And this is where mentastics and going back into what's free and what's light and what's mobile can really help them. Okay, so we're going to come in. We've sculpted this arm again, just allowing it to weigh. I can get some traction here and just see how the neck moves. I can come up underneath. Oftentimes we hang out here, we hold the arm, and I'm just moving again from my core. I'm not just moving my hands, I'm shifting my weight. I can lean out and add some traction. I can be a little more active, making some circles. Again, I can come in and support this. Sometimes people need to have some support under the arm to let it go. So whatever works. Great. I'll come back in again. Bring the arm up, and we have this slurp of the bicep. So real kind of an octopus hand, cuttlefish kind of a thing. I'm going to slurp that up. And just play with the water balloon that's her bicep. Okay. Some people like to do it facing towards the head. Get over my wire here. Some people like to stand out here. You can play with what feels most, or where you're most dexterous. Sorry about the lighting on this, but this would be the other expression of it. All right. Now we're going to come into another principle, and this is the compression, this idea of kind of taking out slack top to bottom or vertical into the table. So think kind of gravity. And with any compression, it's important to know that there's a direction to it. It's not straight down, but we have an organic shape, and we want to take out enough slack superficially so that when we lean our weight in, we start to feel that the shape of the body, the shape of the movement to come. And then we want to follow that and emphasize that, because the more we can align with where the mind wants to go and where organically we're structured to go, we can optimize that hinge system without what's the word I'm looking for? Without disrupting it or putting it on guard, right? Hey, I don't move that way. Don't do that. We want to be like, oh, wow, yeah, I love that. That's what I want to be feeling, okay? Again, not well articulated, but I think you get the point. So a couple things. I'm going to come back around here. There we go. First order of business is I want to work on what we call the pinwheel, okay? So the pinwheel is, if you think about the center point being around the sternum, I want to take the shoulder and the rib cage around, okay? And when I do this, if you notice, my arms are pretty static. It's my hip that's creating the shape, okay? So when I come in, I'm going to lean forward and follow, like, so the shoulder's going to want to come straight down, and the ribs are going to go down and in and across, okay? So there's more of this kind of a feeling. And then together, I take out the slack and lean in, but then I'm moving from my waist. And in this way, I can start to bounce and create that buoyant feeling. But it's all coming from my hips, right? So I'm engaged here, and then if I start moving here, you can see her moving. I'm not doing this, okay? Although, once I get moving, I might articulate a little differently here, but it's coming from here. Let me take your arm up there and tuck that underneath. There you go. Cool. So that's the feeling there. I can come up to the side here and frame this out. I'm going to switch camera one more time. I think that'll work. And we're going to come into the pectoral stretch. So I let the head of the humerus is going to go into my palm. Okay. And again, with the same wide spread out hand, that's my hand shape. Okay. It's going to go onto the head of the humerus, and I'm just going to take it down and away. So it's not straight down, it's actually out. Okay. Lengthening the pec minor and the pec major in here. The other hand's going to rest on the ribs. Okay. And I'm just going to lean on in and let the weight coming into my hands take it a little further. If I move from my waist, all of a sudden, I can get some good movement here. And I want to shift this up here. I think you might be able to see the movement better from there. So I'm here. So I'm not just static arms doing this, okay? I'm engaged. I'm leaning my weight in so that there's some length here. And now I'm adding, and I'm feeling her rebound into my hands, and I'm following that. The rhythm is in my feet, and it allows me to keep coming back into her rhythm because I'm keeping her rhythm in my body. And this is what will start to happen when you want to move your hands around. Pectoral stretch, pinwheel. This left hand can come up on the top portion of the chest and do the same thing. But if you were to just stay right here and master just this to start, to get your rhythm and your body mechanics down, you're going to do so much for this person. Her neck is wobbling back and forth. Her shoulder blades are really free. So they're all getting a piece of this movement. And the beauty is that there's no mind behind that. The mind's going to show up paying attention where the hands are. And the more we keep some soft contact but full contact, the less focused they're going to be. Like, oh, there's that one point that I'm paying attention to. They're going to be so enamored with and consumed by just feeling their body undulate and move. That's the key piece. Hey, I do move this way. I don't have frozen shoulder. I have a frozen mind. So one more time, left hand for the pinwheel. I'm going to come in here. Fingers can be kind of straight down the arm. And as long as I connect with my weight, I have her in that movement. I take out some more slack with the ribs. There we go. I can step on up, pectoral stretch. This allows me to come right down into the belly. So I'm gathering up her tissue. I still have the same rhythm in my feet. I can use the ribs as a handle. I think I saw a great demo, Michael Hillenbrand working on the diaphragm from here. Okay, he was doing a little discussion on the polyvagal vagus nerve. But yeah, we have the rib cage here. The ribs articulate with the spine. So while we might have our hands here, we're actually doing spine work, right? You'll know what the health of the spine is by how the ribs articulate. And I just invite you to pause it between these different positions. And one of the beautiful things about rhythm and lulling the nervous system into deep space is this, well, what's half of that? What's half of that? And half of that. And that was the breath. That deep breath she just took probably did more work than I've done in the last hour. Right? The whole body gets a piece of that. And that's what we're after. Okay. Same thing with the belly when we're working here. We want soft, full hands. Okay. Gathering up tissue. So I can gather this way. This way. If it's a larger belly, you can grab around on the side, maybe anchor by the ribs, and then use a little bit of your forearm, and then add a little bit of a compression. Then lengthen up. And now the ribs become this handle for the entire body. I'm still moving from my feet. Okay, so my mentastic. I can come up here, and I'm right into the rhythm in the upper body. So as you play with one idea and the other, the invitation is there to just start to dance and see if you can create movement. All right, there's a perfect time for this now. Everybody's got one of these, which is this really dense handbook. It's a beautiful resource. I'm going to let Katie have that for a moment, and then I'll get her other side. If you go to page 18, okay, the first statement in the book on this page is, students are guided to understand that practicing of the movement repertoire is to develop the capacity to listen and appropriately respond to the tissue so that dialogue with the tissue is held as the predominant intention rather than the moves per se. Right? So that dialogue with the tissue is held as the predominant intention. And then this is what allows us to speak this idea of peace and ease and coherence to the tissue. Moving forward here, they can either encourage a soothing, lulling, toning down of the nervous system, or stimulate or awaken functional processes, all within a feeling, and here we go, and context of peace and safety. Now, if everybody just lived by this doctrine in general, you know, if you think about just human connection as a dialogue, the world would certainly be a better place. So Milton and all the lovely people that put this manual together really know where they're coming from. And I haven't found a better soft tissue mind manipulation technique out there. This work really gets it done, and it's centered on our own self-care. Okay, I'm just going to go around and balance out our other side. I'll put this here so you can see. All right, so I'm going to back that up a little bit. And again, thanks everyone for just being really patient with this scenario. I'm going to come in and sculpt, right? What do I want to say to this arm? Wow, this arm. Knowing a person's background. Do they work at a desk? Are they a carpenter? Are they doing hard labor? Those types of things can really give you an idea of what they're doing. Or even like Matt's a guitar player, you know, and sitting, if he's anything like me at the drums, it's countless hours of repetitive movements. Thankfully, there's some emotional expression behind it, which is really powerful. But still, there's some fatigue that can come in. So, you know, you want to come in and you want to just be like, this ease, this feeling. You can lean back, add some traction, and then bounce from your feet. Now, at this point, you're not able to see this, but her whole body is moving with this, all the way down through her core to her feet. And all I'm doing is taking out a little bit of slack and introducing a gentle wave. And that's getting more done in terms of informing her functional mind of how it can move freely and effortlessly. I mean, this is like the cheetah principle, right? A cheetah is just like as noodly as possible, melting off a branch. But when it needs to be active, no one can question the power of a cheetah, right? So we have this, we can step up and just weigh the arm. And I'm moving from my hips, tossing the weight of the elbow, just like we toss the weight of the hip from the foot, that bell clanger idea. I can lean out a little bit, take it away. Avocado sandwich on the hands. I can step up and around. Give her some light free feeling in the bicep. Again, it can stand at the head of the table or inside the table. Cool. Come back out, weigh. And here's another piece. I don't want to just drop the body part, okay? Most people remember the goodbye. Okay, so as you exit with the same amount of attention and intention of this feeling, length, ease, peace, that feeling. So that you can really convey, their mind's going to get quieter and quieter as it trails off with the subtle sensation. And in mindfulness studies, and even in my own experience teaching in the juvenile centers, when I was trying to quiet a room, rather than say, okay, everybody listen, all I had to do was ring a bell and say, listen to this, and raise your hand when you hear the bell stop. You could feel it. It was palpable the way the room came into focus and became really, really subtly focused as the ring of the bell tapered off. Okay, and that's what we're up to here. As we come out or we take a movement and make it half and half and half, they're getting so much more focused on, I can still feel movement. And it's that body awareness that when you, through the Mentastics, you help them cultivate and leverage, is going to be the key for them to unlock everything, or most everything, in the world around them that might be causing them discomfort. Okay, so don't underestimate the power of ending a movement in a way that is mindful and thoughtful. Okay, do I have, okay, good, screens aren't frozen. Okay, I'm gonna come up to the pinwheel here, have my hand on her shoulder. I just wanna see how that feels. I'm leaning in to take out some of the slack. And there, now you can kind of see down here that I have her and I'm barely moving myself. So it's different than this. I'm just locked in and then I'm moving from my feet. So you don't see my hand moving here. Yeah, okay, good. All right, lower hand on the lower ribs. And the same idea, I'm in place, but I'm using my entire body, not just my hands. And in this way, I can give her a movement experience that reaches her nervous system deeply, that allows me to articulate her spine and work on the back of her. I can come onto the top of the ribs. The top ribs fold down. The lower ribs go down in and across. Okay, so it's kind of like that. And you want to feel an accordion quality. can step back up. Again, keeping the rhythm in my feet just allows me to be a lot more, what do I want to say, global in this region, so that I'm not, so that I'm suggesting that the shoulder and the ribs and the torso, it's all one big connected piece, not these individual pieces and parts. Gathering up the abdomen, stepping back up a little bit more at the shoulder. And again, the pinwheel, I'm taking this arm down, or the shoulder down, ribs in, like kind of over and across, and then moving from my core. And that's what I'm after. I can step up, pectoralis stretch. All I have to do, I keep the rhythm, draw a little out, and then I lean on in, and then her body stops me. I feel it's like, oh, that's plenty. If I were to just sit here and push down, I would override what feels organic to her. Cool. And I'm just going to wrap this up with some slow belly. That feeling. Just going to do a little closure on the neck. And then just to honor time, get Katie off the table. And then we'll play around with some questions. All right. So again, you know, through the course of the session, the deeper breaths that she took did a lot of work. And you'll find that as you go through, you'll be feeling a certain quality in the system. And then all of a sudden, you know, the breath comes, you just let them have that space. And then boom, you go back in and it's like, wow. And sometimes I feel like I'm doing all of this just for that one moment, that one breath, where the nervous system feels safe enough to go, I can let go of this. So cat's paws, yeah. So here you can see her head really differentiated from the movement, mobilized by the movement. Yeah, love that. Kind of lean on back. Just a little bit of length. And I think it was Roger that gave the image of like melted butter. Just let the thumbs roll off the eyes. And I think he's got this great quality when he goes, there. Like just that, nothing more. Really wind picked up. All right. All right, folks. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to help Katie off the table. Okay. And then we'll get into just kind of putting a bow on this. I'll answer some questions and we'll set up a strategy for next steps. Cool. So I'm going to have Katie roll to her side towards me. I think most of you know how to go about this, but I'm going to have her, yep. And then have her slide her feet over the edge when she's ready. And spiral on up. Cool. And then you want to hang out with your client a little bit afterwards. Katie's had sessions before, so I'm right now, again, just to honor time. Not going to go through the closure process, but I would have her dial into what she's feeling. Oh, 1 second. Call Tara. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk later. All right. Beautiful, beautiful people. I love them. And I'm so grateful that they were here to help knock over this domino. But yeah, I would get the client off the table and just really be with them, because you don't really know what's shifting underneath the surface. Okay, oftentimes we'll hang on to things that are not functional just because they're familiar, and they're not optimal. And sometimes when this stuff happens and they have a completely different feeling, you got to go back out into your world, and you're like, I feel so different. I can't go back to that kind of energy that I was before the session. And this happens often. So I'm going to swing on over, switch the camera angle, and, or wait, I'll just do this. I want to kind of get into a position where I'm not feeding back so I can answer questions. Ooh, here we go. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Ooh, I see some people getting their clients off the table, so I'm happy to hang there. We can open up the chat. If you want to type something in, that's okay too. All right. Okay, guys and gals. That ought to work. The wind here is kicked up, so my windows on this side are like clanging around. So I might have to, if you do have questions, I'm happy to repeat answers. But yeah, I just wanted to see how that went for you. Feel free to unmute and chime on in. Oop. Close that. Do that. Oh, thanks, Danielle. All right. And close that. So a couple things over time, and I have a computer, an iPad, and an iPhone running concurrently here, and a wireless mic. So I don't have that whole scenario completely dialed in to be able to have a couple different camera angles, and then I have a big screen here that I'm projecting all of you onto. I'm just going to keep dialing it in. So yeah, Danielle, don't smell your work. It was the funniest thing. It was my intermediate training back in the 90s, and it's just so helpful. And you know what? I still smell my work. Somebody else, let's see. There we go. Let's see. So what I'd like to do is I absolutely want to get to the back of the body. A couple things we can look at are obviously the prone, and I invite you to go to my Traeger page because I do have a similar demonstration, supine, prone, and then there's even side lying there for beginning training. And then the second tier of videos are from 2 years back, or about almost 2 years back. And the demo body, the guy had just like days before torn his bicep off of the forearm bones, and it had surgically been reattached. So you'll see me giving him a session, but just really keeping the movement like a low amplitude. And the muscular shifts that took place in that, just because I listened to what was going on, were substantial. Okay, to go in there crashing about, pulling, I mean, the body was in lockdown because something severe had happened. And to be able to just weigh and experience things was so valuable. So probably more than 50% of my sessions are what we covered today, just some really basic feeling in. But just like Rod Stewart wrote Maggie May with like 3 chords, you can get it really right with just the fundamentals and the quality of movement, not so much hand positions per se, but who are you towards yourself as you're giving the session? What quality feeling do you want to impart? And stay curious.
So I just want to say that was great. Thank you so much, Michael.
Go ahead. Give me 1 second. I need to mute myself here so that I can.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. I really enjoyed just the experience, and it really translated well. It almost felt like I was in a classroom setting. And it's just good to hear things described in a different manner. And I just liked how you connected step by step to being present and always checking into yourself. That was really helpful.
Now I can kind of sit here and think. No, that's great. And as I can refine this or get better camera angles, I really wanted to have another person. But interestingly, it took a little bit to get, I have another demo body coming tomorrow for the level 2. But to get people that want to come and participate right now, it's going to be another week or 2 out till I can have somebody filming and, really getting into, I'd love to be able to get particular about things. And then also have, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather do the, underpromise and overdeliver. But it would be great to have somebody answering questions and then asking me as I go along. Just to kind of let this process mature so it can be like you're in class and you can have a body on the table and really get a transmission, that can be beneficial to keep you moving forward. So that when we are able to get back together again, you're feeling like you're kept on top of your game. So, I got a thumb from Anna Marie and Sonia. Great. You're very welcome. Thank you. Here's the thing. I mean, yeah. Thanks for being out there. Thanks for taking on this work. I think for those that have been in it for some time, and even for those that might have just had some real jaw-dropping experience, I'm getting, even emotional now that it's such powerful work. And, massage is beautiful too. There's lots of great therapies out there, but with the understanding of the mind and body connection at this stage of the game, Traeger is the model for the future. I mean, there's just no 2 ways around it. It hits all the bases: nonviolent communication, the epigenetics and the recall, right? The autogenic training and the recall to elicit muscular responses. You're welcome, Frank. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Great to see the 2 of you. And yeah, my love to the family and blessings to Penny Lane. Okay, and I'll definitely be in touch. But yeah, so the work hits trauma-informed yoga, mindfulness. Hang on, Sam, let me get you in. Hey, Sam. All of those things. What else? Polyvagal theory, working the viscera, being attentive. Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication. Yeah, I mistouched too. It is so valuable. And this is such great touch. It's informed, it's sensual, it's honorable, it's affectionate. It doesn't get better. And like Dean said, like Milton said, like actually Dean mentioned this in my first training. He said, your own personal development will do more for your work than any new technique. And as they're finding out with the science, you know, the more you're able to become heart and brain coherent, and that just means compassionate, right? There's a, I think it's like 0.1 hertz that occurs, but when we're equanimous and really accepting of what's true in the moment as nature has manifested itself. This is what the Buddha taught. If you develop that piece, you know, anything is really possible. You can stand present when the sky is falling, knowing that will change. You can stand present when things are wonderful and really enjoy those and experience them too, but also understand that that will change. And the way that this works, it allows us to transmit that understanding because it's a listening model. It's to me, ticks off all of the boxes. And probably most importantly, we take care of ourselves in the process. For those of you that it might be massage therapists out there, you know, this work can carry you, you know, forward in so many things, or for so many years. That's what I wanted to say. So if you're feeling achy in shoulders, low back, wrists, what have you, this work's really exceptional for allowing you to leverage your skill set and all the wisdom that your hands have, but in a model that's a lot more considerate of you. All right. Oh, how can I practice the heart and brain connection? Okay, so Sonia, a couple things. There's, you're still on the call, right? So the Heart Math Institute, and I believe that's heartmath.org, but they teach heart brain coherence in some pretty simple courses. I mean, you can take courses and spend $1 kabillion. Everybody's got their Cadillac version of things, or I don't want, or their Tesla version of things, I guess, if you want to think more contemporarily. But you know, one of Joe Dispenza teaches heart-brain coherence. I had recommended to a number of people that Gaia.com has a series called Rewired by Joe Dispenza that is amazing. That it's you know, what Joe Dispenza has there in Rewired and what Bruce Lipton has in his new quantum physics lectures, and Greg Braden in his Missing Links 3 are the distillations and very concise summaries of what they've been working on for decades. And the visuals are really solid, but they get into heart-brain coherence. Dawson Church's book goes into this quite a bit, and this is Mind to Matter. They're all part of the same clan. They're brilliant people, have been researching things for quite some time. So I invite you to take a look at that. But in most of it's really bringing awareness, just like we do this with our mentastics. We can get soft, free, fluid arms, or I'm sorry, fluid muscles if we go about paying attention, okay? And I'm gonna close the chat here for just a second because I want to share my screen. Go to, I think I know, what did I do with it? I'm just gonna go on to here. Real quick. I'm just gonna go back into this window and see if I have my other one up there. Okay, give me one more second here, folks. I wanna get to my web page. And nope, that didn't work. That was a fail. Let me escape out of that. And get out of share screen. Over to here. Oh, maybe I will. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Firefox. Okay. So I'm going to. There we go. Let me scoot this over here. I want to let me do that. You can see how adept I am at this. I really want this to be in the, there we go. Yay. Okay, so can you see the screen right now? Just a nod from somebody's head. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is go to here. So this is my Traeger page. It should be in your email. But if you go down to let me see if I can scoot over here a little bit. Oh, sorry about that. On the Traeger page, I believe it's in this section, general info. I don't know why I'm not able to get it to where you can see it without it disappearing. However, what is power? Oh, there we go. Oh, I'm messing this up. There's a paper by Heidi Stieg, who's a practitioner, an instructor out of Austria, and she and her husband did a paper where they did heart rate variability studies on hang on 1 second. Let me go back to here. Stop share. I'm just going to stop share because I'm creating some madness there. But on that page, there's a PDF study. Hi, Jenny. And they look at heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is a measure of heart-brain coherence, de-escalation, self-regulation. These things have been measured in yoga and mindfulness practices. And they show in this study the heart rate variability with 10 minutes of mantastics. And they show the heart rate variability within the practitioner from doing the work. Okay, and if you look at all of the rabbit holes of modern science right now, like frontier science, again, Traeger ticks off all of the boxes. Now, I know we're not as widely known out there, but I'm so grateful that there's people that are interested in this work, because to me, it will be at some point at the forefront of things, okay? Because massage therapists are working very hard. People have so much mind stuff going on. And when you can anchor not only a therapeutic experience, but one that leverages the neuroplasticity of the brain, and then you can teach them how to recall that. That kind of movement education, that brain education, is the same thing that they're doing with trauma-informed yoga and mindfulness practices across the board in many applications. And to me, again, based on our understanding of how the mind and the body are related, or the better understanding that science has, that wider view, Traeger just fits right in there. Thanks for letting me rant. Anybody else have any particular questions? And feel free to add to the chat if you'd like. Okay, Traeger is really missing component. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, it's level 2 is tomorrow, same time. Yes, Blake. And what we'll do here is I'm going to go through the session. I won't spend this, well, I'll just spend the time that's necessary, but I am going to add in traveling hand, 7th cervical for the neck. We're going to do around the clock and some of the trickier moves or movements. And as best as I can. I have somebody coming in, but I had somebody drop out today. At the very least, I have the bear, and I've used the bear in class. Not the best model, but it's substantial enough that I can talk you through movements. And this isn't the last time that this is going to be done. I like doing this. This has been fun for me. And Tanya, I'll get to that in a second. I really hear what you're saying there. Yeah, so for the level 2, we're going to add, I'm going to spend some time on some of the additional moves since you got the basic piece here, that first level. So that's the intent. And again, I'm not doing so much the mentastic piece right now because you're getting some mentastics each Friday. But we can touch on, again, and if you have questions, just, you know, I can share this with other instructors. We can really mature this particular model. But I'm happy to go through what it's like to broadcast movement, what it's like to broadcast seeing somebody else move, and certain strategies that I've had to getting things across, making clients feel more comfortable, some go-to movements that seem to be universal. One of the things I do have on my Traeger page is the document that I send out to them in an email after a session. And I've generally reviewed some of those exercises. I've certainly explained the principles, but then I'll also maybe in my email say, we talked about this, like we talked about posture and going to the wall and just feeling that, or we, you know, if there was something that I contexted a little more specifically, then I'll put that in my email, but I send that document along to explain the concept. And I'm looking to refine that. I'm writing an article right now of Traeger in relationship to a lot of these, you know, frontier science pieces that ideally can be used to just sell it more to people that might be aware of some of these other terms and how Traeger relates to it. So Sonia, tomorrow, can level 1 students also join the review? I'll tell you what, for this week, let's refrain from that. I just want to have some access to the level 2 students so that I can address whatever comes up for them and just keep that space contained. I'm not adverse to it kind of moving forward, but I'd really love to just allow what I'm up to right now to take its shape in the context of our current training track. So if you're cool with that, I'd really appreciate it. But know that as we build on, you know, the level 1 lessons and the what's that, hon? Or I heard a comment come through. Okay. So yeah, that's where I would be on that particular question, Sonia. And Tanya, regarding trauma recall, one of the things that I found, if you're familiar with like EFT tapping, it's been pretty, actually Dawson Church goes into it extensively here, and he's got links to his website in each chapter covering, you know, deeper applications. But what that does is that when we have a trauma memory, that's got a particular like energetic vibrational frequency signature. And as we're experiencing something and doing the tapping that they have, thinking about things, right? And going through the body, you're actually changing that and disrupting it. And, you know, in trauma-informed yoga practices, obviously learning breath control is very powerful. I can get into a whole module on breathing and de-escalation on another day, but one experience I had that was pretty powerful, when I was in Sri Lanka, there was a Russian yoga teacher who was in from Jordan, and she worked at a spa there. She was driving on the road one day, a mountain road, and got caught in a rock slide. And boulders were coming down and crushing her car while she was in it. And when she came to the yoga retreat center where I was operating out of, she said, I just want 6 sessions in 2 weeks. I've got to get past this. And I'm thinking, I mean, I don't know what to do. I'm like, okay, right? I think it was like the 4th session, that same thing started to happen. And she started to remember, she got really peaceful. She started to remember the bulges, and I could feel her body just, I said, stay with that. Stay with the memory. And again, this is a guess. You need to know your client. You need to know that you can put a lid on it. We had a lot of downtime. There was a lot of open space. She didn't have to go back to work. So I knew that if there was a little bit of fallout, there was a big container for it. Okay. But I had her basically stay with what was coming up as I just held and worked gently, and the body crested in this tension, and then it started to fall away. So it was basically, don't push it down, but how can you stay present with what's not comfortable and not let it win? So that's how I rode the wave with her, and it was effective. It really cleared that from her. Sessions 5 and 6 were kind of cleaning up residual, putting a bow on it, but it changed everything for her. So I hope that helps. Okay. So Laura Osborne, your Traeger handbook has different numbering than yours. You took it. Okay. So yeah, I have a newer version, and your version is updated in 2007. Yeah. So the sections are, hang on 1 second. I can tell you because I have the old version over here. Okay, so I have 2 versions. And what I'm going to do is, if I don't have the link right now, I'll make sure that you get a link to, you can go and actually download the new PDF for those that have the older handbook. What they did was they went from like sections 1.2.3 to, the sections are there, but now they're page numbers. Okay, so it's a little different. So when I referenced the material here, I was referencing from the new one. So I apologize that I didn't put both there. And for new handbook. But let me give you those page numbers that I referenced, okay? So we're gonna go, I know it's in, the first one was from section 1. And I believe it starts, yes, section 1.5.1 or 1-5-1 is the 19 to 30, where it lists the content, that really cool statement that I made about we're learning how to respond to movement, and it's the intention, a dialogue with the tissue as the predominant intention, that's there too. So that would be your page 19, and then the standard level content continues from there. The other section is pretty much tab number 4, Mentastics and Table Time, and just turn that page and you're gonna have this really great a practice guide for students and practitioners. I mean, that's like the wish list, the who's who of or the what's. It's like this great question list for self-evaluation. You know, what's my pacing? How's my tone? Really allows you to reflect back on yourself to find out where your learning edges are. You know, and then you can take them into your practice sessions and detail them. And we can even, you know, I mean, again, you know, this format is endless right now, and however we leverage it to mature how, you know, instructors and students on game. So I hope that helps. Tanya, the format worked better than I thought it would. My biggest piece, oh yeah, absolutely. The echo, thank you so much for that. It's tricky, but I will. Okay. This microphone is actually really good for direct signal, but it picks up the other apparatuses. Even though I have them muted, I still need to have a speaker source, or I left the speaker source on so that people could talk. And that's where the moderator would help out. Okay, so if I can get somebody to kind of moderate the meeting, I can have everything silent, the voice will be clear, and then they can just chime in when they need to because they're co-hosting. And they can mute themselves because I'm kind of at a distance. Okay, so that's cool. Let's see what else. So Laura, did that help you with respect to the reference in your manual? Just let me know. And then one other thing is that I would just to close out is that I'd love your feedback if this worked for you and you want to see more of it, or I'd love for you to feed back to Renee or Linda McConnell. They helped get the mailing list out. Since I saw this stuff coming out for directed to practitioners and some mentastics, I thought to myself, well, hey, I have some level 1s that didn't happen or aren't going to happen. I thought I would just see if this model would work. So I'd also, if there's a 3 student out there, we'll add to the mix too there, and then maybe get into even practitioners out there. Oh, there's Laura. I'm looking over at this other screen now. I have, I'll show you my setup here real quick. So over here, I don't know if that can be seen, but there's my big screen where I project and do PowerPoints, and that's where I have everything that I'm talking into right now. So it's a makeshift set. It really works. Does anybody have any additional questions at this time? All right, well then, I wish you much love, much peace. Stay with the fundamentals. Bye, Danielle. Oh, the giant bear. Oh. Right, look at this. It's a full body bear, and when it's on the table, it's the full length of the table, so I can do neck work and all kinds of things with it. And this is compliments of Laura Lynn. So, okay, Laura, see you tomorrow. Super. Yeah, so much love. Feedback to the US, to Renee or Linda, that'd be really great. And, any information to me if you want to see changes. I'll definitely get the audio. I'll try to work on that tonight so that tomorrow's a little cleaner run for folks, but it's going to be the same format for the most part, just looking at that second layer of movement. And again, they're just handles, okay? So maybe we can get into a free form thing where people can kind of play and create their own stuff. And that's kind of what the side-lying video, if you look at the side-lying video on my page, we're just exploring how does the body move when it's bolstered. So just drill down into those, their playlists. So there's a prone playlist, they're 7-8 minutes long of like 10 videos in each one of those columns, and feedback on those. However I can refine this for you, I'm up to it. So. Have a great afternoon, folks. Peace. Oh, hi, Sonia. All right, enjoy your day.